All right, so you want to dive into something really specific this time, light hazel eyes.
Yeah.
We're talking about those eyes that, like, they kind of draw you in and you're not even sure what color they are.
Yeah.
It's this captivating blend, right?
Right.
And we actually got a request from a listener to unpack this, and we have an excerpt from Light Hazel Eyes by Paul Elms Bacardi.
Okay.
But, we want to go a bit beyond just surface level stuff. Let's
Yeah.
get into, like, the nitty-gritty.
It's deep dive.
Deep dive it is. So where do we even begin with a color this complex?
Well, the heart of it really is melanin,
Oh, okay.
which everyone always knows that's the big
Yeah,
right?
it's like the base of it all.
It's the base for all eye color. But what's so cool about light hazel eyes is that it's this really, really delicate balance of how much melanin is actually there.
Okay, so walk me through this.
Yeah.
What's the recipe for light hazel eyes, melanin-wise?
So you've got your spectrum. On one side, you've got your blues, very little melanin.
Yeah.
Way on the other end, you have your really dark brown eyes.
Packed with melanin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hazel kind of sits in this middle ground.
The Goldilocks zone of eye color.
Exactly. It has more melanin than blue or green eyes, but less than brown.
Okay, so that makes sense for the browns and the ambers we see in hazel.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the green? That's where I get tripped up. Is that just more melanin doing its thing?
That's where it gets really cool. It's not actually green pigment. It's all about how the light plays with that melanin. It's this thing called light scattering.
Okay, break that down for me. How does light become color in my eyes?
So you know how the sky is blue?
Yeah.
Same kind of concept.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So light, it hits the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it scatters in all these different directions. Blue light, because it has a shorter wavelength, scatters more.
Okay.
That's why we see the sky as blue. Where the same thing can happen in your eye.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Light enters your eye, hits those melanin molecules, and scatters. So in hazel eyes, you've got those moderate melanin levels and the scattering. It creates those greens and golds.
So hazel eyes are like their own little light show. That's amazing.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the melanin itself. It's also how it interacts with light.
Precisely.
That's so cool. And that's probably why those light hazel eyes, they kind of seem to change color depending on like what you're wearing or
Yes.
the lighting. It's like they have a life of their own.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of the color itself, but let's go back in time a bit. Where do hazel eyes, light hazel eyes, fit into, the grand scheme of human evolution?
So you got to go way back.
Okay.
Thousands of years ago, early humans evolving in Africa
Yeah, okay.
and brown eyes, those were the default.
Makes sense.
They had all that melanin protected them from the sun.
It's like built-in sunglasses.
Exactly. Exactly.
So when did hazel come into the picture? Were we just like walking around with brown eyes for ages?
Pretty much. Hazel eyes probably about 4,000, maybe 6,000 years ago, something like that.
Wow, so much more recent.
And it's interesting because that lines up with a lot of major migrations and cultural exchanges that were happening at the time.
Oh, so people are on the move, genes are mixing, and boom,
Yeah.
hazel eyes.
Yeah. You start to see it, especially around Europe and Asia.
It's like you can almost trace those movements just by looking at eye color.
And you know what's even cooler? Look at where hazel eyes are most common today. It kind of maps onto those ancient routes.
Okay, so where are the hazel hot spots around the world then?
Well, you see a lot, like around the Mediterranean, Southern Europe,
Okay.
and then kind of like following those old migration routes
Yeah.
east, you get into the Middle East, even parts of North Africa.
So cool. It's like you're holding a map and then you're like, oh, there's a little dot of hazel and there's a little dot of hazel.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I have to bring us back to what I think really sparked this deep dive for our listener. Those lighter hazel eyes, right?
Right.
What makes them different? Like even within the world of hazel, they're special.
They really are. And it goes back to that melanin, those levels. Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah.
Light hazel eyes, even less melanin, especially in certain parts of the iris.
So it's not like evenly distributed?
Not necessarily, which is part of what makes them so interesting.
Okay, so walk me through that. Like how does that less even distribution actually work?
So imagine some areas just have a bit less melanin, right?
Oh.
Those greens, those ambers we talked about, they just pop even more in those areas.
Because the melanin's not there to like drown them out or something.
Exactly. Exactly. You get more of that contrast. That's what makes light hazel stand out.
And then on top of that, you've got that whole light scattering thing going on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And with less melanin in the way, in some places, things get even more like, I don't know.
Intense.
Intense, yeah. Like a kaleidoscope almost. The way they shift, it's really something.
Yeah, people use words like magical to describe them. It's crazy.
It's true. And think about it, our brains, like we love novelty.
Yeah,
We love things that are a little unpredictable.
totally.
And light hazel eyes. You're never quite sure what you're
So
going to
now,
get.
what mood are they in today? What color are they going to be?
Yeah, there's a mystery there.
And to think it all goes back to, those migrations, those ancient journeys. It's wild.
If you could trace those genes back,
Right. Yeah.
think of the stories you'd uncover.
It's like every light hazel eye is holding on to those stories. We're all connected somehow, even through something as, simple as eye color. So we've talked about melanin, we've talked about light, we've talked about ancient history, and somehow it all comes together in like this one little part of your body.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it, right?
It is. So let's bring it all together for our listener who's maybe like totally geeking out about this stuff now, just like us. What are the takeaways? What makes light hazel eyes so unique?
Well, it starts with that melanin balance, like we were talking about.
Right. Not too much, not too little.
Exactly. It's like the perfect starting point. And then light does its thing.
Takes over, creates a masterpiece.
Right. Those greens, ambers, all because of how the light plays with the melanin, or doesn't in some cases.
It's like having a work of art in your eye that's constantly changing.
And don't forget, all of that is only possible because of, well, everything that came before us. Right. All those ancient migrations, all those chance encounters. It blows my mind. You look at someone with light hazel eyes, and it's like you're seeing generations of history.
It's like their eyes are telling a story, but it's a story that goes back thousands of years.
Exactly. It makes you wonder about all the stories those eyes have seen, all the places they've been.
Right. Like if our eyes are the windows to our souls, then light hazel eyes are like these kaleidoscopes into the past.
And they remind us, I think, that we're all connected, even in ways we might not realize.
We are. It's like this beautiful little reminder that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
We share this planet, we share this history, and sometimes we even share those captivating light hazel eyes.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. What stories do your eyes tell? Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.